producing much easier, faster, and better results in a fraction of the time for you.
Welcome to our first episode of AI/ML Project Autopsy podcast, where we dive deep into the trenches of real-world AI applications. Today's episode is titled C.P.R, which is, we believe, the lifeline of AI/ML projects. My name is Prashant. I'm the Operations Director of Oryx Models. And joining me today is Khalid, the founder of Oryx Models, who has architectured numerous data projects for Oryx Models. Hi, Khalid. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Prashant. It's very nice to be here because it's very nice to actually help other people as much as we get help from others.
And you and me were speaking a little bit about this before. Could you give us a little bit in the context of AI and ML models? Could you talk a little bit about what you call C.P.R is?
Sure. Actually, this is an acronym that we made at Oryx Models. And what it stands for is C is for capturing data, and P is for processing data, and R as reporting data. The reason why we did it this way, it's because really we found out that it is those three pillars and three different sections of any kind of AI ML work and pipelines that you need to actually pay a lot of attention for each one alone. And also this way you can understand that whatever is needed for the capture stage, for instance, is fully addressed, and then you move on to processing. Otherwise, if anything is not fully addressed, which, trust me, I have seen, you have seen, we've both seen, that takes you back very hard. Sometimes it stops you and holds you right in the middle of your way because you did not address the capturing of data either correctly or enough, meaning including everything that you should have included in the beginning.
So yes, I like the way you put it. It's the base, and it's this is particularly applicable in every AI ML project. So let's get a little deeper into it, and let's start with the first pillar of it, which is the capturing. And according to you, why is this so critical? And what are the common challenges that typical AI ML practitioners face in this area?
Sure. See, most people, I think they rush into the next phases of processing and reporting, finishing. They really rush. And what happens when you do that is you have very poor kind of data, or poorly addressed or poorly prepared data. There are many things that go into that, including even, for instance, feature engineering. Feature engineering, everyone is talking about it when you get into the next stage, which is processing. But actually, in my view, it is a part and parcel of the first stage, which is capturing data. Because when you do that at that stage, you will come to know if it's actually applicable or not. So you will come to know that there are many times and instances I've seen that people rush into the second part, which is the processing, and they take below optimal levels of data capturing. In that, I don't mean capturing only, by the way, but capturing is the word we use, and that is actually the whole thing, from finding the data, cleaning the data, pre-processing the data, and then feature engineering, because you want to know, quality is one of them, but it's beyond quality. It's feature engineering to the point that if you end up going with the wrong features to your process, what happens is that you are thrown off. Whether you like it or not, you are thrown off. And so you need to actually make sure that you have enough time. As I always said, if you ask me now, how much time, percentage-wise, would I really professionally would like to actually give for the C and the P and the R. And you will not believe most people put it in the R, but I put 70%, and I'm not joking here, 70% into the C and 20% into the P and only 10% or even less into the R. Here's why. Because the R is known. You know exactly what you want. So you know it.
Yes.
The P is whatever data you have, whatever C you have, you work on. So if you look at it from this kind of perspective, you understand that the C is the biggest one. It's really the bulk, the main substance that you have to work and get anything. So as they say, you know, whatever you put in, whatever you want from the R, you better have a much, much better C to then do it through the P, which is processing, and then get whatever you want. You can change your R, for instance, report anytime. You can go more. In fact, if you have enough and good kind of capture of data, you know, at that stage, you can even go beyond what you have actually started off wanting from the reporting. You can do more processing, you can do multi-processing, you can do sub-processing, but you can't do that if you don't have the correct.
If you don't have the data, right? Yes.
Absolutely. So I cannot emphasize enough on the level of time, effort, and everything. And plus also, this takes us down to something else, privacy concerns. See, privacy concerns, it's not going to be at the level of processing or at the level of reporting. It's going definitely to be at the level of the kind of data that you get from day one, from second one, actually. So you need to discuss that. You need to discuss with the you know, the people who are like have been given the authority to take care of the information. Like in this case, for instance, our clients, right? Our clients, this data that they share with us, it's not their data. It's their customers' data. So they don't actually, they're not the owners of the data. We have to remember that. So all of these things are, again, part and parcel. If we were to go and look at the biggest issue and to finalize and clean up all the issues, you would find them that they are 70% or more in this part of the data, which is concerning the capturing of the data.
That makes a lot of sense, and I know that you know, folks who are watching this should put their minds to it and think about it a little bit from a different perspective. And yes, so once you've captured the data, you talked about P, which is the processing. What would this involve?
See, processing, if I was to ask any one of the viewers to go and check what I said about capturing, processing, and reporting, and I would like to ask them to do that actually right now, they'll find out that 2/3 of what I talked about in the capturing actually falls here. It falls into the processing. But why did I do it this way? For one reason, as I said before, if you do your work much better, I know I'm going backwards to data and data capturing, but it's because it is actually that much important. So you take care of your feature engineering there, not here. You take care of your transformation, is, you know, the normalization, encoding, and all of these things of data. You need to do it over there. Handling missing values, removing duplicates, all of that. It is processing, but I would love to call it, and I'll give it the right name, and it's called pre-processing. So by using pre-processing, I allow it to be done in the previous stage, which makes life so much easier. It makes the people who work on this really come and really put all their efforts on the product at hand, meaning what is it do they want to get out of this now? You know, there's a lot of time that they need to work on checking different models, checking different libraries, checking different flows, all of these things. Architecture. See, architecture has nothing to do with the previous point or the previous stage. It has to do all with the process, because as you do the process, as you're going to get. So there's a lot of stuff that you need to do when it comes to architecturing the whole pipe, whether it's an AI or an ML pipe.
Okay.
Therefore, you need to make sure to separate them. Now, separation makes a huge difference for you because you can then have either different people or different sections for C.P.R. Why? Because then you can pinpoint where the problem is. When you have a problem in processing, you can easily go back to the P. Why? Because you did the right documentation, you did the right flow, you did the right note taking, everything was done separately.
Yes.
And I have seen a lot of people who do it for the sake of getting an output, but then the quality of the output always suffers.
Correct.
And this is why I think if I was to say, this thing about cooking your data, I would rather, and I'd say it very clearly and openly here, I would rather cook the data, but the data is actually has its own natural substance before I cook it. But if you cook non-substance data, poor data, ill-informed data, irrelevant data, then guess what? You have a smudge, and you call it a food, a platter, food.
You talked about cooking data, and it brings me to a thought of the whole concept of cooking. And cooking is all about putting it in the dish, and it needs presentation because that's what attracts, that's what makes it look good. That's the starting point. And I think that after this processing, I believe that's where reporting would come in, right? I mean, what do you feel is reporting's role in all of this in AI ML projects?
Sure, but Prashant, if I may just go back to the cooking when you said the plate and presentation is everything. But let me just put it this way also, going back to the capture of data. Presentation is everything, but can you just envision presentation, nice presentation, but the items there are actually bad or rotten?
Like the
How would
ingredients?
that be? How would that be? You can still have it decorated nicely and looks good, but just think about that. Anyway, let me then move on to reporting, and let me just talk about that. And this is the place where basically the goal, there's always a problem statement that we start with, and so this is the end result that's going to remedy the problem. That's the whole thing here.
Sure.
And so it could be in many different forms. It could be dashboards, it could be visualizations, it could be many different forms. It could be outputs in speech, it could be outputs in video, it could be outputs in images, it could be also decision making, and it could be sending to sensors to carry on a decision.
Yes.
There are many different places to work and to move that pulse as what we call a report. Or it could be a just simple report that explains exactly what has been put inside and what is it that you can extract out of it when it comes to insights. See, the whole thing about AI and ML is one main thing, which is trying to extract insights that gives you easier, faster, and better decision-making tools. That's it.
Sure.
So this is it's the same here. Now, you can also get to a point where you need to do maybe model interpretability. So you need to interpret the models, right? So that's possibly one of them. I know that people now have been, by people I mean clients, they have been now asking more and more us to interpret. So we come up with predictions. So they ask, how did you come up with the predictions? How does this model predict? And so that's one of the points of reporting that we have. So one of the reporting is the final result that we give them through the system. But then a second one would be, how did we come up with this prediction? So we have to explain.
Explainable. Okay. Yep.
Explainable AI is, yes, exactly.
Yes.
In essence, this is explainable AI.
This is it.
So we have to explain, interpret, how did we arrive at this prediction? And then again, there are many different kinds of businesses that use automated reports, for instance. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where, it's something that you can put on auto. The difference here is that can we go back again and see if you had issues with the data itself and the capturing of data, and then it was processed, but whatever data you put, it's going to process that data only. You are going to reap this, whether it's good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm taking you back to the capture and saying and emphasizing that your main input data is extremely important, and that time that you spend there is most. And again, I'll take you to Kaggle. You know Kaggle.com.
Yep.
And
Of course.
they have all of these people who go and put all these kinds
These
of
data
data
sets.
sets and
Correct.
codes, what have you.
Yes.
And you know what? People are they're doing contests and what have you, which is good. That's very good. I like
Sure.
it. It's
Yeah.
very good for the industry. But one thing is happening now. People have come to actually like and accept and expect POCs. But what about after POCs?
After POC, correct.
The
Correct.
issue here is not for you to show that it works. And the difference between a POC and a real life solution is that the POC has been done in the environment of the producer. So it could be anything. But then
Absolutely.
when you come and put it to test, which is the client's
Users or their
the client's environment, that's
Correct.
when it's going to really have the kind of test, the real life test, really. So with this, I think I can safely say that this reporting is extremely important, but not as important as the initial stage, which is the data and the data capturing itself.
Yeah, sure. And there's one more thing that I was it just occurred to me and it came to my mind was in the reporting. I think that there are a lot of reports that are prepared that are is a one report fits all requirements, and I think that that's where a lot of these reports are also failing, despite the fact that you have automated reports. For example, it depends on who the audience is. If it's a particular level, they don't want to get into nitty-gritties, perhaps. Can you throw a little light on that, if possible, like a high-level insight or, how much detail at which level? How do we take care of this?
This is a problem right now. It is a problem in AI ML. It is a problem. It's because, see, you're talking about basically what you said was the business, decision-making and decision-making tools and the capability of AI. That's what you're saying. It's the cross between these two. And there is no one answer to this, really. But I tell you this, though. The right mix of the C, P, and R when you work on something like this. If you have the right processor, if you have the right capturer, if you have the right reporter, if you have the right people who are going to be taking care of this business for you, the service provider, who actually looks at everything holistically from the end backwards, because
Right.
the end would always be a business end. It will never be an
Right.
AI or a technical end. It'll be always a business end. So you want those people to be able to understand and address the business problem first, coming
Yeah.
backwards, and then addressing it and seeing, as I said, you do not need more than having a faster, easier, and better decision-making tool that you are looking
Correct.
for with AI.
Right.
Nothing else.
Right.
But
Okay.
the business approach, the business goal is still the business goal. And to do that, I'll give you an example. We were approached with a telecom company, and this telecom company, they have a problem in sharing their data. And so talk about having problems with capturing. Now, we thought that was a problem, but that's actually it became to be a project problem, but not a pipe processing problem. Why?
Okay.
Because we were able to go and synthesize our own data for them on their behalf. So
All
we
right.
did all the synthetic data and the synthetic features, and we've done all of that. And I'll tell you this, in the capturing of data, the biggest issue we faced there, even though we have synthesized, in brackets, cooked the data, we had problems in actually deciding which features in feature engineering are actually most important, because it's not easy to do that. And it took us some time and many, many different attempts. And then when we moved to the processing, it was even harder. Why? This thing here I'm talking about is about cross-sell and upsell. From outside, it looks confusing, but it is actually more so confusing when you look inside. Why? Because we tried to go in a very, very deep manner. We're trying to make it more complex. And in long time, we found out that actually and this is where it's not easy, some of these problems need less complex processing, not more complex. Because some of them actually are so close to the mathematical equations only.
Okay.
So why would you do that? And so the question would be, so do you actually need to use AI or ML? My answer is, to this, ML is a great use for it. And therefore, we deploy ML for doing and producing much easier, faster, and better results in a fraction of the time. Because if this was done differently, using mathematical approach, it's going to take minimum, any time between 3 to 4 weeks minimum. Whereas this takes care of it at the spot in less than 15 seconds.
That's a great way to put it, and good illustration to show how the three pillars of AI ML project at Topsy. We have C.P.R. forming the base. Of course, and it's pretty clear that it's not a framework. It's the lifeline of your projects. So before we wrap up, and do you have any final piece of advice for listeners or practitioners who are embarking on their own projects?
Yes, of course. I would say focus on the basics. And by that, I mean, really, I've seen so many projects fail because they try to go fast and skip some of these stages, and especially the data capture stage. I mean, most people rush through it like anything. And that's why it's not weird to see that more than 70% of AI ML projects actually don't go very far. And those are stuck at the POC level only. And there's a reason for that. So ensure that you have solid data, ensure that you build a scalable processing workflow, you ensure that you have a meaningful reporting style. Okay, and remember that AI is it's a team sport, as they say. It's a team effort. Collaboration between engineers, scientists, and business stakeholders is key to success in this field.
Thank you very much, Khalid. That's invaluable advice for our listeners. Hey, so just a small message for everybody who's joined in here. This episode lays down the foundations for all practical insights, and we will be sharing more in our upcoming episode. We'll tackle real-world challenges and solutions. So, guys, stay tuned. And once again, thank you very much, Khalid.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for taking this time so that we can actually help our fellow listeners.